So building upon all the knowledge we've implanted in your brain so far, we're going to move yet another step upwards in our understanding. We've talked about LAN switching and we've talked about routing. Now we're going to talk about WANs, or wide area networks. And this is a basic overview of those wide area networks. A WAN is a wide area network. There we go, overview done. I'm kidding, of course. A WAN is a wide area network. It connects multiple locations together using carrier-grade technology. And when I say carrier-grade technology, I'm talking about different technologies than LAN connections. You're generally using telecom provider services. Now, so far we've talked about Ethernet connections on switches and routers, but for WAN connections, you'll be using T1s or T3s, Metro Ethernet. You're going to be using services that you don't own, and that gives rise to the adage, you own the LANs, but you lease your WAN. And believe it or not, the most common WAN connection you'll run across is your home internet connection. And it's a perfect example, it's a perfect analog for these carrier-grade WAN connections. And WAN connections come in all flavors. For example, analog modems, remember those? They convert digital signals to these screeching noises that you send over your telephone line. You know, just as an aside, it came to my attention just recently that my kids have never actually heard an analog modem. So I looked it up on YouTube, and they just kind of looked at me funny. It's like, yeah, when I was a kid, the internet made noises. Enough about me being old. Analog modems are an example of circuit-switched WAN technology. They convert digital signal over a switched phone network to the other end of the connection. It's a point-to-point connection. And for those that have been around a while and remember serial link IP or just a flat-out PPP connection over an analog modem, that's the same basic technology that you use when you're setting up a point-to-point serial connection on a router using a T1 or a T3. We've obviously moved on in the last few years to DSL. DSL also uses the PSTN at least up to the carrier central office. In the carrier central office, the voice and data is split off and the data is switched onto a packet-switched network. But where it comes into your home, it's using the same PSTN, or the publicly available telephone network. Cable obviously is a different technology. It uses the cable TV network, but it is still a WAN connection because it is connecting your home through a leased connection to another location, and that other location happens to be the internet. But you know, there's no law saying that your employer couldn't pay to have a T1 run directly from their network into your house. And in fact, a few places I've worked, at least for some of the higher executives, that's exactly what we've done. We've made their house just like a branch off of our network. So enough about home connectivity. For businesses, there are two basic types of WAN connectivity. We have dedicated connections. Those are T1, DS3, Metro Ethernet, etc. And these are fixed services used for point-to-point or frame relay/MPLS connections, meaning that this T1 or this Metro Ethernet connection is yours. And it could be point-to-point, meaning that you have a 30 meg Metro Ethernet connection from your facility in one city to another facility in another city, and no one else uses that connection. Or this T1 could plug into a shared network like a frame relay or an MPLS network. But that local loop, that connection in your office or in your facility, is still a dedicated connection because no one else is using that T1 with you. Then we have switched connections. We have circuit-switched connections like ISDN, which still uses part of the telephone network to get your data into your home or business. And it's called circuit-switched because every ISDN call could, in theory, take a different circuit-switched connection through the phone network. You don't know what physical equipment your ISDN call is going through. You just know that it rang on the other end and it was picked up. Next, you have packet-switched, which is like frame relay or DSL. You're handing your packet off to the shared network, and the provider is getting it to the other end. In the case of DSL, obviously that's an internet connection. But for a frame relay connection, you're handing your packet to the frame relay connection and you're tagging it saying, I want it to go to this location on the other end. And you don't know what path that packet takes through the carrier network. You just know that it gets to the other end and it conforms or doesn't conform to your service level agreements. And last, we have cell switched, which is ATM. We're not really going to talk in depth about ATM connections, other than to say they are a type of WAN connection. And instead of using variable-sized packets like frame relay or IP, if you're using ATM, then the packets are always a fixed size. And that's pretty much it. That's our overview of WANs. Obviously, we'll get into this a lot more in depth as we go through the course, but this concludes this discussion for now.